Call to order, the City of Dickinson City Commission meeting of Tuesday, July 16th, 2019. Let the record show we are missing one commissioner, Mrs. Trustham. Mr. Gah, are there any changes to the order of business?
Thank you, President Decker. There are no changes.
No changes to the order of business. Any questions for Mr. Gah on the order of business? I look for a motion on the order of business.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve the order of business.
Second.
The second. Any comments, concerns, questions for Mr. Gah? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the order of business as it stands, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda the commissioners wish to discuss? There are no questions or concerns with the consent agenda. I'd look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda
Second.
with a second. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We have no timetable issues this evening, so we'll move right into the non-timetable. And the first item up is, Mr. Gah, you have the Dickinson Municipal Judge, the alternative judge.
Yes, thank you, President Decker. Commissioners, you have a letter detailing the process from Judge Keough in your packet. He's here and has his recommendation. He'll speak to you a little bit, and if you approve, then we will immediately swear in the alternative judge.
Good evening, Judge Keough.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for finding me time in your busy schedule for this appearance. As I explained in the letter, we have had a need for an alternate judge over my career. And the alternate judge covers my conflicts of interest when I have those, and also when I'm absent from the city, which does happen now and then. We've been fortunate to have Judge Kautzman from Mandan serve as our alternate judge. It just turns out that so many times over the years that there have not been local lawyers that wanted the job, that wanted that position. When we thought we would try to fill that with a local attorney this year, we had actually four applicants. And I'm proud to say that we actually have two of the applicants in our audience, Mr. Ramsey and Mr. Sellinger. And I guess I can be candid and say it was a hard choice. I worried that if we select Mr. Sellinger, he would be up here and President Decker, you would say to him what President Johnson said to Patrick Brooks some years ago, aren't you a little young to be a judge? I don't think you'll ask the same question of Mr. Ramsey. Anyway, we did go through the process. We did have the interviews. And Jan Murtha was part of that process. And we have decided to recommend to you that Gary Ramsey be appointed as alternate judge. Judge Kautzman will actually stay on, if that's all right, because he has cases pending right now as well. And even with the two of us, there could be times when both of us have a conflict of some kind with a particular defendant. And so I haven't guaranteed Mr. Ramsey that he have a whole lot of work. It kind of depends on the situation, but we want to have somebody here in the city that's available to help. I don't know if any of you were in court or in the building last Thursday morning. It was very busy. This Thursday is very busy. Just about every day we have folks in jail, and we have to see them for bond purposes. And so I don't know what that means in terms of a pattern or anything like that, but I'm glad to have some help, and I believe that Mr. Ramsey will do a fine job for the city. So Gary, if you would stand up, please. I don't know if you all know Gary. He has a reputation, of course, mostly really
come up to the podium?
really good. And I'm very happy to present him as my recommendation for alternate city judge.
All right. Well, thank you, Judge Keo. Mr. Ramsey, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'll certainly do that. You can stop me when you've heard enough.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I've practiced all my legal career in Dickinson, North Dakota. I've been here for at least 34 years. I'm not planning on going anywhere. I'm planning on continuing to practice into my 70s like Judge Keo. Anyway, and I've raised my family here. All 5 of my grandchildren are here, and this has been home. This is the longest I've ever lived anywhere, and so I'm here. And I think I have a good reputation. I practiced initially with the Greenwoods when they were in practice, and with Dan after his father died, and the firm split up. And I think Mr. Steiner would probably remember me having been the attorney for the Dickinson Park
I was
District
just
years
thinking,
ago.
what years was that, Mr. Ramsey?
I think it was like 86 to 92.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had submitted a resume to Judge Keo and State's Attorney Murtha. So anyway, my background essentially is I'm from originally from northeastern North Dakota. Grew up in Park River, North Dakota. Family of 7 children. My background was in construction, excavating, contracting with my father. I did a 4-year enlistment in the Navy, and after working for a wage and in construction, I decided to take advantage of the GI Bill. So I went to college and did quite well. Continued on to law school, and when I graduated, I found myself with a wife and 2 children and in need of a job. And the first offer I got was from Larry Greenwood, who hired me, and I came out here in 1985. I believe that was like the bottom of the first boom, and
Very, very tail end.
tail end, yeah. And we've stuck it out, and here we are.
All right.
So my practice has been numerous and varied, and I consider myself to be a generalist, a general trial lawyer, and I do a lot of the same things that Judge Keo does, but I can assure the council we don't represent the same clients. So anyway, I'm not. Yeah, with that, I'll shut up.
Any question, commissioners?
Mr. President, I believe I was president of the Park District when we hired Mr. Ramsey back then. I don't make bad decisions. I don't think I've ever made a bad decision. If I did, I'd remember it. So I don't remember much from back then, Mr. Ramsey, but I would certainly approve of you being an alternate judge.
All right, I'll be glad to do
Any
so.
other comments or questions, commissioners? If not, I would thank you very much, Mr. Ramsey.
You're welcome.
And I would look for, if there are no comments or questions, I would look for a motion on to approve Mr. Ramsey as the alternate judge.
So move.
We have a motion by Mr. Steiner to approve Mr. Ramsey as the alternate judge.
Second.
With a second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Mr. Goff, you can swear in Mr. Ramsey.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Ramsey, I'll give you the official copy.
Okay.
We'll stand over here, and you can just repeat after me. And then as soon as you're done, you can go over here and sign it and leave it with Rita. So we'll make it easy. I'll just say a few words, and you'll repeat them. I, Gary Ramsey,
I, Gary Ramsey,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
and the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the position of alternate municipal judge
of the position of alternate municipal judge
in the city of Dickinson,
in the city of Dickinson,
Stark County, North Dakota,
Stark County, North Dakota,
according to the best of my ability, and so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations.
If I might add 2 things. One is that this is a very nice ceremony for Gary Ramsey. Many municipal judges don't get such a ceremony. And what we started at our annual training is to have a Supreme Court judge who appears before us and also gives the oath of office to judges. So Gary might have a second try at it in case he feels he flubbed this one. But the other thing I wanted to make sure it's clear, and I've told Gary and the other applicants that the fact that we were looking for an alternate judge was not any indication that the job would be open soon. I really have enjoyed my years of service, and so this is neither a resignation or a retirement. So, thank you.
That's good. That's good to hear. You've done an awesome job, Judge Keo.
Thanks, Judge Keel.
All right, moving right along. Mr. Gao, we have the city attorney selection.
Yes, thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. As just a bit of a reminder, we put out RFPs for what I would call a consulting city attorney rather than an employed city attorney. We received 3 proposals, 2 of them from local attorneys, 1 of them from a firm in Mandan. We had a special meeting. You instructed Deputy City Administrator Carlson and myself to sit down and talk with the 2 local attorneys that were interested and make sure they understood what was expected of them. Both of those meetings were held. They went very well. I'll have to tell you, a lot of times we look at making a recommendation, but both firms have appointed young, energetic, intelligent attorneys that I don't think we can go wrong with either one of them. One of them does have a little previous experience with the city. I don't think that that's a big disadvantage or advantage. I just think it's a good fact. I think it does help a little to know that they both have a little bit of city attorney experience. But again, whichever one you choose, we're happy to work with, and the executive staff shares that as well.
Commissioners, any comments or?
Just a question, Mr. President. Just looking at the 2 agreements, one agreement spells out a specific number of hours for their fee and the other one does not. Is there a different, I mean, has Makoff said that for this fee this is how many hours we're gonna give you, or is that
Again, that was
fee
part
is
of
whatever it takes for them to do it?
That was part of the discussion, was that we anticipate that probably on a typical week, an average would be 15 hours. Then maybe a little bit more on a commission packet week, maybe a little bit more less on a week where not. We had some good discussions, especially considering one had been here before. The expectations were a little bit different. For us, we believe we are hiring someone that works for a firm who has an office and a staff that's not in this building, and that they work best when they can work in that office and with that staff. And so that was a little bit of a different understanding than had been before. So I think that also added some flexibility. To update, both proposals were updated slightly. I don't think there were many changes in either one of them, but that just reflected our discussions. But I believe both of them understand that this is about a 15-hour a week most weeks, and if it changes drastically, we may come to you asking for a little difference in compensation.
Mr. President, so if I read it correctly, Mr. Salinger's firm is offering employment at $10,000 per month,
That is correct.
and then $250 per hour?
Past the 15 hours, yes.
Pardon?
$250 an hour past the 15 hours, yes.
Past 15 hours. And then the other law firm with Ms. Kripe is $13,500 a month, correct?
Per month, yes.
Same thing.
And their per hour is less, and they don't have in the contract, and I've read through it twice, and if I missed something, they don't have a set amount of hours. My understanding looking at it would be from the many things that are listed, I look at it as performing their duties. You know, that what we basically expect out of attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're putting hours on it. They're just putting this is what they're going to do. Now, there is, on both contracts, there's scopes outside. If there's litigation and stuff like that, that all falls into the 250 and the 215. So, I guess, they're pretty close, except for the price. You know, the upfront price on one is more a month, but the per hour is less, so.
I know both individuals, and Ms. Kripe, when she left, she did a wonderful job, absolutely a wonderful job. My concern is that we're over $40,000 difference a year between the two. You know, and the bottom line is it comes down to interpreting the law, you know. And has this been negotiated from the very first offer that they sent us?
You will notice that the dollar amount, I believe, the first one from Makoff Kellogg was 16.5, and this one's 13.5. The one from Sellinger is the same. I do want to think, I think that the 250 specifies some hours outside of the agreement, but typically, I think the sentence was stated in there that if the hours differ significantly than 15, then we would want to rearrange. So I think that one's not necessarily locked into 15 hours. It's just the estimated. Again, that was kind of what we were thinking off of evaluating the current workload.
Over the years on competitive bids between two firms or two businesses or whatever, you know, we get scrutinized if we go with the higher one, you know, without good reasons. And, you know, I have always used a 10 to 15, maximum 20% difference, saying if something's 20%, tell me why it should be 20% more. Okay, can we justify it? Can we verify it? You know, and so this one I'm struggling with, even though I think you do a wonderful job and so on. I'm struggling with the extra $40-some thousand a year. And so I don't know if that's negotiable, the 13.5 again, or what. So I'm kind of on the.
I mean,
You know, the only thing, well, go ahead, Mr. Pritter.
just for me, I guess I look at the number obviously is important, but you know, in the past, how familiar the firm is with the city, we've used them in the past, so that gives them maybe some points on their side. For me, we already have the prosecution contract with them, you know, and we also use, you know, the other attorney to back up when we need for certain litigation, like, so, I don't know. I think they're both great firms, they're both great people, I know them both, I just, you know, do we get some cost benefit by having them with one firm, or do we try splitting it? I guess I'm open to either. I was hoping for something from staff or more of a recommendation, which they prefer, I guess, but. I mean, do we see any benefit having it with one firm or splitting it into two firms? That's,
Bottom line, it's the law to interpret, you know.
yeah, so.
Well, but, you know, my concern is the stepping into this role, and I know there's possibility that there's the perception out there that well, this is something that anybody can do, but in the past, when anybody has
precise,
done it,
no.
we've not had great results, you know? So we need to make sure that there's some knowledge of the workings of the city and how cities work. So I know both of the attorneys, and they both do a wonderful job, and I'm fortunate enough never having to use any of them. So I guess it's something that we're
Well, I would, I'm not going to make a motion on either of them tonight. We have one commissioner that's out, and I don't know what Ms. Trustham's views are or whatever, but if you guys want to make a motion,
My only concern, and I don't think it's spelled out in either contract, and I may have missed it, if we do decide to terminate, these are both 2-year agreements. You both have asked for 2-year agreements. If we would decide that we are not happy, what is what would be the termination? Are we obligated, and I'm looking at this, and are we obligated to for the full contracts? I don't think it's spelled out in here. The one says commencing,
It says either party may terminate, well,
30 days notice.
30 days notice.
right.
In this
but
one,
is there any, I mean, we've terminated contracts before and owed money to them. So that is my concern. I don't think that's spelled out in here. If somebody's their expectations, our expectations are for a certain level of service, and if we're not happy and we say, okay, there's 30 days, we want to terminate, then
yeah, I guess I don't see anything in here.
I don't see it spelled out in there.
If, I don't see that there's any penalty for
Any
termination.
penalty. So I'm getting a nod from one attorney, there's no penalty, and the other attorney, no penalty either, so. I mean, if
Well, if we table it, I won't be here next meeting.
Oh,
So,
okay. So then we're without your services also.
I mean, I don't have an issue if you want to table it, but I'm just saying that.
Well, if we table it, then the contracts need to be rewrote to them to become attorneys mid-August. So you'll be back for the second meeting in
Yep.
August. So,
to me, it'd be a easier decision if they were closer, with the experience that we have with Ms. Kripe. The $43,000 extra, that's not the total, that's extra. That's a concern. So I don't know if we can renegotiate with Ms. Kripe, or I'm not getting a nod at all. You shake a no back there. I mean,
I mean, they both put their best proposal together, so I think that's what we have to decide. I don't know that it would be fair to the other firm if we
right.
yeah.
try to go renegotiate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'd move and table it until the next full meeting, full board.
Okay, well, that.
If you need a motion for
Right,
that, I'm not
okay.
sure.
Well, that won't be till, if we're going to table it.
August 6th?
No, Mr. Frederick.
I'm gone that meeting.
I will just add, Commissioners, that we're using Miss Murtha on a interim basis. I know she's got some vacation time planned and is going to be out a little bit, so it would be nice from a staff standpoint to have something done sooner than later.
Once,
Well, if someone wants to make a motion, I'm okay. I just don't know what motion I would make right now.
I'm just looking here at the next, if we would maybe call a special meeting when all of us could be here. Because I do agree, I think all 5 commissioners should make this decision, not just 4 of us. So,
Yeah, so 2nd through the 7th, I'm out of town. Other than that, I can make anything work. If we want to do something later this week or early next week, I don't know when
I know,
Miss Trustin will be back, but
yeah, and I know Mr. Steiner is,
I'll be out in Idaho for a while too, so
so,
I can always give my opinion through another commissioner.
well, we have a motion right now to table it until we can find a time where all 5 of us can,
Um, Can we renegotiate this in 6 months or a year?
I think with some of your discussions tonight, perhaps, if dollars is your only holdup, if that's the big concern, then perhaps you should go with the lowest responding proposal. And you've seen in there that you've got 30 days. So if you wanted to perhaps propose a shorter term, or even if you want to reevaluate within the current terms after so many months, you could do that. That's, from what I'm hearing, that's your concern, is you don't want to make a recommendation.
Well, that's my concern.
Based on
because,
cost.
we have to justify this to the taxpayer out there, Like I said, it's not $43,000, it's $43,000 above and beyond the 130, 150 some thousand.
Well, if there's no counter motion to approve a contract, and the only motion we have on the table right now is to table it by Mr. Steiner. So,
I mean, I would prefer that all five be here for this discussion. I mean,
okay.
so I mean, I guess I would second his motion.
Okay, we have a motion to table, and then what we'll do is Rita will find a time when all five of us can attend here. So, we have a motion by Mr. Steiner, to table this, second by Mr. Frederick. Any further discussion, questions? Not, the motion to table by Mr. Steiner, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We will table this discussion till all five commissioners can be
Present.
present, and if that takes a special meeting, that's what we'll do. So, or at least that we hear all five, like Mr. Steiner said, if he is out of town, he'll either relay his information to myself or Mr. Frederick on where he's leaning. We kind of know where Mr. Steiner's at anyway with dollar price, so. Okay, so that is tabled. Mr. Gah, you have a 805 Sims Street house sale.
Yes, thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. This is the former domestic violence shelter that we took possession of as part of their agreement in assisting them with the new shelter. As we reported a couple of meetings ago, a minimum, we put it out for bids, a minimum price, a minimum bid price of $150,000 was set. Unfortunately, we did not have any bids. Had several, we showed it on a couple of open houses. A couple of realtors came in as well. I think had some clients with some interest, and they were checking it out. What I have heard a little bit of concern from some folks that came in is perhaps that was a little bit high. It is fairly dated. It's going to need some work. They thought that a little bit lower might have been attractive. I also think it was a little different than what we normally do. We usually sell land. This was a house. We didn't spell out that there would be a time allowed for closing. So I think a couple options on the table I just wanted to get your thoughts on is do we rebid it, maybe change our advertising a little bit, maybe market it a little bit stronger this time, or do we want to look at finding a realtor and listing it? I will tell you, if we did that, staff would need to probably go out, talk to 2 or 3 realtors, see if we can get some thoughts, and then bring back a recommendation to hire that realtor. The commission would have to approve a resolution to do so. So a little more time, a little more work. I'm wondering if we might look at a little bit lower price and put it back out.
Personally, I think if we gave it to a realtor, kept the same price and paid the commission, it'd end up with, it's going to be a lower price anyway. But I think we're going to see realtors bring people who want to take a look at it. I don't think they make a lot of recommendations when they aren't going to get paid for it.
I disagree. I think the price was too low to start with, in my personal opinion, but
It's what, I'm sorry.
too low.
Too low? The price is too low?
I mean, the only issue we have is why we didn't get an offer on it is because it's a 30-day close and you have to pay cash.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's looking to buy that for a primary residence, unless it's an investor, doesn't have that kind of, I mean, I look at the square footage, yes, it needs updating. I mean, that house is worth more than $150,000.
Yeah? I would agree with that.
The two adjacent houses to my residence sold for much more and were much smaller than that house. And they sold in a day. So I agree, and they both are being updated. So I think if we list it at a higher price and have
can always-
realtors show it, you know, we can always entertain offers.
Yeah,
So,
gave them more time to close.
Well, I mean, just use the standard real estate procedures, you know. If we do accept an offer, they've got a certain period of time to close, remove the, and, you know, I mean, I think we'll have more interest in it personally than, like I said, if you're not an investor and don't have cash, the way we offered it this time,
Never get it done in 30 days.
I mean, you would never get it to your bank, get approved, get the appraisal. It'd be impossible. I mean, it just wouldn't happen. So,
not in the present workings of,
Yeah,
Financing a
took us
house.
6 weeks to get an appraisal.
right.
I mean, if you take, I mean, I don't know if we just advertise out to the real estate firms that at a certain time they can come take a look at it and make the present, give us what they think they could list it for and sell it for, and we let us choose from there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So,
We'll go with that.
That's what we'll do. We'll do a little work and come back to you with the
Okay.
recommendation.
All right, Mrs. Nominick?
I don't think we're in a hurry to sell it, so.
No.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goff. You have a hiring report, Mrs. Nominick?
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. So top of the list, we have police officer openings. We recently made a hire. One of our police officers that left us came back again, so that's always nice to see. We have one applicant in the background phase, and we have the position open again. We'll be doing interviews next week. We have a communication specialist position that we've had a little difficulty filling. Made an offer and it was declined, so we've opened the position again. We have a design engineer, again, has been a very difficult position for us to fill. We made an offer recently, and the applicant is deciding whether he's going to accept the offer or not. Operations manager, we have interviews scheduled for next week on that. Street maintenance operator, we've got several openings. We did make an offer, and that new employee has already started. So we'll continue with looking for the other two positions that we have open. Collections route operator, we had 4 openings again for that. We filled 3 of them and have the other, we'll be doing interviews, I believe, tomorrow for that other opening. The part-time evening scale attendant position that we had open this summer, we had some, seasonal weekend employees. We had one of them that we have hired, and he is still with us. We're looking to fill another position right now for that. We'll do an interview tomorrow for that position. One of our seasonal employees took the full-time scale service representative position. So that is the reason for losing one of the part-time, but we now have her full-time. We had a property appraiser position open. We did fill it with an internal applicant. And so that left us with a property appraiser technician position. And we just made an offer for that today, and we will begin the background phase for that. We had 2 limited hour library assistant positions for our Medora location, and we have made offers and have hired both of those people to fill that position, or those positions. We have an interlibrary loan librarian position, and we'll begin doing interviews on that later on this week. We have a GIS engineering intern position that we've been trying to fill this summer. Not a lot of interest. I think we're kind of talking about maybe looking at a different type of position for that, maybe changing some of the duties, maybe so we can hire someone younger, or maybe high school or college age for that. Water utility operator, they did interviews today for that position, and we made an offer, so we'll begin the background check on that person. The museum attendant, we have a weekend position that we don't have it listed right now. We're going to wait a little bit with opening that position, but we'll be trying to fill just a weekend attendant for the museum. We had a facility maintenance supervisor position that was opened internally and filled internally. And then we had a buildings and sites seasonal position that has been filled with a former employee who's going to come back to work for us. And then we had the part-time deputy clerk of court position open, and that was filled with one of our, we had a couple volunteers that was helping us out in HR a while back, and one of our volunteers actually got hired for that part-time deputy clerk of court position. So that is all the positions that we have open at this time.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Nominick. Any questions for Mrs. Nominick on the hiring journal? All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, moving along, we have a bid, Mr. Zuroff, for Fairway Street.
Yes, President Decker and Commission, thank you. The bids for Fairway Street are what it's called as Dickinson Hills Offsite Improvements. The bids were received and open on Friday, July 12th at 10 a.m. One bid was received from DEK Consulting. You should have a copy of the recommendation from Apex along with the bid tabs in your packet. Base bid of asphalt plus an alternative of concrete paving was required in this bid. The base bid for asphalt paving is $1,705,239.65, and the concrete paving was $1,848,125.90. Staff recommends that we approve the award bid to DEK. The notice to proceed is contingent on receipt of financial security from the owner. If you have any questions, you have the consultant, and Mr. Gott can answer any other questions.
Which bid are you recommending?
There's only the one.
Concrete or the
The
asphalt?
asphalt paving right now. Of course, we have a commitment of 1367, I believe. I don't think we've heard from the owner, but if the owner wants to, I guess.
And that was the question I was going to ask you, Mr. Zuroff, or Mr. Hadley, or Mr. Goff. According to the development agreement, we commit to the 1.38, I think it is.
1.376, I believe.
Yeah,
so.
1.376, and anything up and beyond is responsibility of the owners.
Correct.
So if they decide that they want to
see.
go with the concrete, that is on them. Well, if they go with asphalt, that additional money's on them too.
Yeah.
So,
What was the total length of the street?
About a half a mile, is it even that?
Yeah.
There's-
Scott,
Over 52,000?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Steiner, I didn't hear your question.
What's the length of the street?
It's around 1,500 feet
Yeah, 1,500
from
feet.
the business loop west to the end of the improvements on Fairway.
With repairs and so on that a person makes on asphalt year after year after year, but is this close enough to where we should say we would pay the difference to bump it up to concrete?
Commissioner Steiner and Commissioners, I mean, that's a good investment over time. Mr. Zaroff might have an idea on what the maintenance costs are for 20 years out of your typical budgets, but
If done correctly,
Yeah.
it would be the way to go. I guess it would be depending on what the commission wants to commit additional dollars.
I'm not willing to. I think we've already committed more than enough dollars to this project. If they want to go up and beyond and above, that is on that firm.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't.
I think we've
I don't
made
think
more.
they would.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
obviously.
I'm just saying we've made more than enough of a commitment to this development. Then I don't think we need to add any more skin to the game.
I know what you're saying, and it wouldn't make sense for them to go with the concrete one because
Well,
it costs them more.
You know, it's up to them, and that might be the look they want. They might want concrete. You know.
Well, that's when we discussed this, we recommend to approve the bid, but it would be up to them to approve by the financial security. We wouldn't go any further as far as proceeding with the infrastructure or anything else until they give their input. I think we'd have this thing done.
I mean, it's roughly $142,000 more for them to go to
Yeah.
concrete. So, but- And Mr. Gah, have you had any contact since the bid with the firm?
Mr. Snyder's has contacted back through the engineer, so they're aware of the numbers.
Okay.
They're working on it. I don't think that, I agree, they'll probably pick the asphalt alternative, and we should hear that. But again, that's part of the contingencies. If they have to agree that, yes, we're going to pay that difference, and yes, here's the financial security that's required in the development agreement.
We essentially, all we're doing is approving this bid to be forwarded so that they can start their process,
Yes.
so.
And then if they
that-
approve, we'll be able to move
Right.
forward with the construction process.
And of course,
And right now-
short timeline, we want
Right.
to get this to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, understandable. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Schneider or Mr. Zuroff?
Mr. President, I move we approve the asphalt bid.
We can just approve do we?
Approve it, and then they can pick the option.
Yeah, just approve the bid and they pick the option. So, because we're paying, regardless, we're paying the 1.376, so. So we have you want to amend your motion, the motion to approve the bid?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the bid.
Second.
Mr. Schneider?
Would that need to be contingent on the financial security, though?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
contingent upon financial securities, yes.
Thank you.
And we have a second. Any other discussion, questions? Not, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We're moving on to planning. We have a rezone. Mr. Hadley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is the final portion of the EBC subdivision and Bible Church project that was in the north part of town. Last time, on July 2nd, you had the resolutions that approved this subdivision and also the annexation of a portion of this site. This has been kind of an ongoing project up there. They purchased some property in the past, and it wasn't combined on the site through a plat. This time we got them to actually plat it. Obviously, it's inside the ETZ, the portion that we're bringing in, and it was annexed last time. This zone change is a second reading of the 8-acre site, bringing it in from agricultural to R2, so it matches the rest of the site. Don't believe there were any comments. I wasn't at the last meeting. I don't believe there were any negative comments from the public. Staff and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this ordinance 1678.
All right, this is ordinance 1678, and if I'm correct, we did have the public hearing at the first reading?
I believe you did,
Correct.
yeah.
Yep. So, commissioners, you have any questions for Mr. Hadley? Not, I'd look for a motion on 1678.
Move to approve?
We have a motion to approve from Mr. Steiner. A second from Ms. Walla. Any other comments, questions, concerns for Mr. Hadley or staff on ordinance 1678? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Walla? Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries on ordinance 1678. We have no other items this evening. We'll move on to non-timetable number 10, public issues of city concern not on the agenda. If you have any public issues of city concern not on the agenda, please come forward, state your name, and let the city commission know of your concern. Anyone have any concerns for the commission that are not on the agenda? Anyone? Seeing no one from the public has any concerns not on the agenda, I'll close that portion and we'll move to commission. Commissioners, are there any items you wish to discuss? We have one item on there this evening is executive session for a Vite claim that we are settling. And so if you have any items beforehand, if you wish to discuss them. I have one item that I will bring up. There has been in the past discussions from commissioners brought up in separate meetings that the wishes to go back to a portfolio management type system for the commissioners. And I would like to hear, not this evening, but I'd like you to think about it, by North Dakota Century Code, Board of City Commissioners shall designate among its members 4 separate portfolios. And the only way that, the reason we don't have portfolios right now is we passed an ordinance, or you guys passed an ordinance back in 1998, 1999,
Yep.
dissolving that, and, but that can be repealed. The ordinances for that can be repealed if we would wish to go back to a portfolio type of designation, which is in the North Dakota Century Code. So think about it, and then the next meeting when we come back, we'll have further discussion on it. So, unless you have any other concerns, then I will move us to executive for attorney consultation. All right, we will be moving to executive.
I'll make that motion.
Move a motion to move to
Second.
executive with a second. All in favor of moving to executive session, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We will move to executive. Okay, we are back in regular commission session. We have given instructions to staff on how to proceed with the claim, and they will go forward with this claim. Anything else, commissioners? No. Now I look for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
We're adjourned.